Listen, this is the day you stop negotiating with people who treat you like an option. The moment you lower yourself to be accepted, you teach the world exactly how to handle you. And the world learns fast. It learns that your boundaries are flexible, your standards are negotiable, your dignity can be rented for attention, approval, or a temporary seat at a table you were never meant to beg for. Extreme self-respect is not arrogance. It is not loud. It is not a performance. It is quiet authority. It is the internal decision that your value is non-transferable, whether they clap for you or ignore you. Because when you respect yourself, you don't chase. You don't explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You don't shrink so someone else can feel tall. Most people don't lose self-respect all at once. They leak it. One apology when they weren't wrong. One "it's fine" when it wasn't. One extra text after being ignored. One compromise that felt small until it became your identity. And then one day you wake up and realize you've been living like a guest in your own life. Today, you change that, not with rage, with discipline, with inner law, with Stoic steel. This video is built around 7 Stoic rules to build extreme self-respect so you never lower yourself again. Take them seriously, because self-respect is not a mood, it's a standard you enforce daily. And if you stay with me until the end, you will walk away with a practical method to rebuild your inner authority, even if you've been disrespected for years. Before we begin, write this in the comments. I do not beg for my worth. Make it public, make it real. And if this is the kind of strength you want every day, like this video and subscribe to Inside Stoic Thought, because we don't just talk about Stoicism here, we build it into your spine. Rule number 1. Control your need to be liked. The fastest way to lose self-respect is to make other people's approval your oxygen. The Stoics would call this slavery, because the moment your peace depends on someone else's reaction, you are no longer living from inner authority. You are living from permission. And when you live from permission, you will eventually do what you hate, tolerate what wounds you, and accept what dishonors you, just to keep the connection alive. Extreme self-respect begins the day you stop trying to be liked and start trying to be aligned. Liked is fragile. It changes with mood, convenience, and gossip. Aligned is stable. It means you act according to your values even when it costs you attention, even when it makes you look too serious, too distant, or too hard. The truth is simple. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always call your boundaries a problem. Here is the Stoic move. Separate your worth from their response. Their response is external. Your worth is internal. Their opinion is wind. Your character is stone. When you confuse those two, you start performing instead of living. You start offering pieces of yourself as currency, and the more you pay, the less you own. If you want a clear test, watch what happens when you stop over-explaining, when you stop replying instantly, when you stop laughing at jokes that disrespect you, when you stop chasing conversations that require you to prove you matter. You will feel discomfort, because the old you was trained to maintain closeness at any price. But discomfort is not danger. It is withdrawal from a habit of dependence. Practice this today. When you feel the urge to impress, pause and ask, what am I trying to purchase right now? Respect, love, or safety? Then remind yourself, anything you have to purchase with self-betrayal is not worth owning. Respect that is earned by shrinking is not respect. It is control disguised as affection. Your self-respect rises the moment you accept this. Not everyone must like you for you to live with dignity. Your job is not to be agreeable. Your job is to be honorable. Rule number 2. Never explain yourself to people who disrespect you. Every time you over-explain yourself to someone who has already decided to misunderstand you, you trade your dignity for a hearing you will never receive. This is one of the most common ways people lower themselves. They try to clear things up with a person who enjoys confusion. They try to prove their intentions to someone who benefits from doubting them. They try to be understood by someone committed to dismissing them. Stoicism teaches a hard truth. Your energy is not a public resource. Your reasons do not need to be approved by an audience that has no interest in your growth. When you feel disrespected, the instinct is to talk more, explain more, defend more, because the ego believes that if you can just find the perfect sentence, you'll be safe again. But self-respect does not come from perfect sentences. It comes from boundaries that do not beg. A person who respects you may ask for clarity. A person who disrespects you demands justification. Learn the difference. Clarity is mutual. Justification is a trial. And when you accept the trial, you place yourself beneath them, as if your life must be validated for you to live it. Here is the Stoic move. Communicate once, cleanly, and then let your actions speak. The Stoics prized brevity, precision, and self-command, not because they were cold, but because they understood that arguments often become arenas where your peace is the prize. You do not win by talking louder. You win by refusing to enter the arena. Practice this. The next time you feel provoked, pause before replying. Ask yourself, is this conversation seeking truth or seeking control? If it's seeking truth, speak simply. If it's seeking control, withdraw your attention. Silence is not weakness when it is chosen. Silence is the sound of a person who knows their value cannot be debated. If you must speak, use a Stoic structure. State the boundary, state the consequence, end the conversation, not with anger, with calm. For example, I'm not available for disrespect. If it continues, I'm leaving. Then do exactly that. Most people fail here. They speak the boundary but do not enforce it. That's why they get tested again. Consistency is what makes your boundary real. Remember, you do not need to convince someone to treat you well. You need to choose what you will tolerate. Extreme self-respect is not arguing for your worth. It is walking away from negotiations that require you to lose yourself. Rule number 3. Stop seeking closure from people who benefited from hurting you. One of the most humiliating ways a person lowers themselves is chasing closure from someone who has no conscience about what they did. You want an explanation, you want a final conversation, you want them to admit they were wrong so your heart can finally rest. But here is the Stoic reality. Many people do not give closure because they do not feel guilty. Some are careless, some are selfish, some are simply not built for accountability. And if you keep demanding a clean ending from a messy person, you will keep reopening the wound just to hear silence. Self-respect is knowing when closure is a trap disguised as healing. The Stoics taught that peace comes from what is within your control. Another person's confession, apology, or understanding is not within your control. If your freedom depends on their words, you are handing them the key to your nervous system. That is not love. That is dependence. That is you begging for permission to move on. Here is the Stoic move. You create closure by deciding, not by debating, not by investigating, not by replaying every detail like a courtroom in your mind. You decide that your dignity is worth more than a final explanation. You decide that the lesson is enough. You decide that the disrespect was the answer. Because the truth is, a person's behavior is the clearest message they will ever send. When they dismiss you, lie to you, ghost you, betray you, or repeatedly cross your boundaries, that is their statement. The mind keeps looking for hidden meaning, but Stoicism cuts through the fog. Accept the evidence. Do not romanticize the damage. Practice this today. Write down the one sentence you keep hoping they will say. The apology, the admission, the reassurance. Then write another sentence beneath it. I release my need to hear this. Read it slowly until your body understands. You are not denying your pain. You are reclaiming your authority. Then do the hardest part. Stop checking. Stop stalking. Stop sending one last message. Stop creating new opportunities to be disappointed. This is where extreme self-respect is forged, when you refuse to keep touching the fire just to confirm it burns. Stoic self-respect means you do not chase emotional refunds from people who spent your trust recklessly. You take the lesson, you keep your standards, and you walk away clean, not because you are numb, but because you are disciplined. Closure is not something they give you. Closure is something you choose the moment you stop asking the wrong person to validate your pain. Rule number 4. Let your no be complete, calm, and final. If you cannot say no without guilt, you will keep living as a servant to other people's expectations, and every time you betray your own boundaries to keep the peace, you lose a piece of self-respect. Not because you are a bad person, but because your nervous system learns a dangerous lesson. My needs are negotiable. My time is available. My dignity can wait. Stoicism does not teach you to be harsh. It teaches you to be clear. A complete no is one of the highest forms of self-respect because it protects what is sacred: your time, your energy, your standards, and your inner stability. The problem is, most people don't say no. They say maybe, they say I'll try, they say let's see, and then they drown in resentment. Resentment is the tax you pay when you keep saying yes to what your soul rejects. Here is the Stoic move. Your no must be calm and final, not emotional and negotiable. You do not need to argue your boundary into existence. You do not need a long story to justify your decision. The longer you explain, the more you invite debate. And debate is where self-respect goes to die, because you end up trying to persuade someone to accept what you have already decided. Practice this. Start using short, grounded statements that leave no opening. No, I can't. No, that doesn't work for me. No, I'm not available. Then stop talking. Feel the discomfort. Notice how your mind rushes to add extra words to soften the truth. That impulse is your old conditioning, your fear of being rejected for having standards. But rejection is not the enemy. Self-betrayal is. The Stoics believed you should not live for applause. They believed you should live according to reason and virtue. If saying no protects your integrity, it is virtuous, even if someone calls you selfish. Remember, people who benefited from your lack of boundaries will always react when you enforce them. Their reaction is not proof you are wrong, it is proof you are changing the rules. Also, stop apologizing for having limits. An apology is appropriate when you harm someone. A boundary is not harm. A boundary is clarity. Replace sorry, I can't with I can't. Replace I feel bad but with no. Your self-respect will rise every time you refuse to decorate your decision with guilt. A calm, complete no is a statement to your own spirit. I protect myself now, and when you protect yourself consistently, you stop lowering yourself automatically. You become someone who cannot be manipulated by pressure, pity, or panic. Rule number 5. Stop overgiving to prove your value. One of the most subtle ways people destroy their self-respect is by giving more than is asked, more than is earned, and more than is returned, then calling it kindness. The Stoics were very clear about this. Virtue is not self-sacrifice without reason. When you overgive to secure love, loyalty, or importance, you are not being generous. You are trying to purchase your place in someone's life. Extreme self-respect begins when you stop trying to be indispensable. Overgiving often comes from an unconscious fear. If I stop doing so much, they'll leave. So you offer time you don't have, energy you can't afford, forgiveness that hasn't been earned, and loyalty to people who have not proven they deserve it. On the surface, you look noble. Internally, you feel drained, invisible, and quietly resentful. That resentment is your inner signal that you are abandoning yourself. Here is the Stoic move. Give from abundance, not from anxiety. The Stoics believed that actions must come from reason, not fear. Ask yourself before you give, Am I doing this freely, or am I doing this to be chosen? If the answer is fear, stop. You are not responsible for keeping relationships alive by exhausting yourself. People with self-respect do not overfunction. They do not rush to fix, save, rescue, or over-accommodate. They allow others to rise to the level of reciprocity or fall away naturally. This is not cruelty. This is reality. Relationships reveal their truth when you stop compensating for the imbalance. Practice this. Reduce your effort by 20% and observe what happens. Stop initiating every conversation. Stop being the first to apologize. Stop giving explanations, reassurance, or emotional labor where it is not returned. Watch who steps up and who disappears. Those who disappear were never attached to you. They were attached to what you provided. Stoicism teaches emotional self-command. That means you do not attach your worth to usefulness. You are valuable even when you are resting. You are worthy even when you say no. You are enough even when you are not performing. Also understand this. Overgiving trains people to disrespect you. When you give without limits, you teach others that your time and energy have no cost. Self-respect restores the cost, not with punishment, but with boundaries. Say this internally when you feel the urge to overgive. I do not need to earn my place by self-erasure. Repeat it until your behavior follows. When you stop overgiving, you may feel guilt. Let it pass. Guilt is just the echo of old conditioning. On the other side of it is calm, clarity, and power. Rule number 6. Walk away the first time your dignity is tested. Most people don't lose self-respect because they were attacked once. They lose it because they stayed after the attack. They stayed after the joke that cut too deep. They stayed after the disrespect that was disguised as honesty. They stayed after the boundary was crossed and then crossed again because they kept hoping the person would eventually understand. But people understand the first time. They just measure what you will tolerate. Stoicism teaches that your life is shaped by what you accept, not what you wish, not what you explain, what you accept. If someone tests your dignity and you stay without consequence, you teach them that your dignity is flexible. And once your dignity becomes flexible, your self-respect becomes fragile. Here is the Stoic move. Respond to disrespect with distance, not drama. You do not need to beg for decency. You do not need to lecture a grown person on basic respect. You do not need to rage to prove you were wronged. You simply remove access. That is power. That is self-command. That is the quiet authority of someone who knows their worth is not negotiable. This rule is not about being overly sensitive. It is about being precise. A test of dignity is not always loud. Sometimes it's a pattern of small violations, dismissing your time, speaking over you, ignoring your no, withholding basic consideration, using your kindness as a tool. The Stoic mind watches patterns, not excuses. Excuses are endless, patterns are truth. Practice this. Decide your non-negotiables in advance. If you wait until the moment of disrespect, emotion will confuse you. But if you decide now, calmly, then action becomes simple later. Examples of non-negotiables: insults, repeated lies, consistent inconsistency, manipulation, public embarrassment, pressure after a clear boundary. When any of these occur, you do not negotiate, you disengage. Disengagement can be silent, it can be brief, it can be a single sentence. That's not acceptable. Then you leave the room, end the call, reduce contact, stop responding, and most importantly, you do not return to the same energy the next day as if nothing happened. That reset is what destroys self-respect. It tells your mind, my standards are theater, and your mind will stop believing you. Walking away is not about punishing them, it is about protecting you. The Stoics would call this wisdom, placing your character above attachment. If staying costs you your dignity, staying is too expensive. You build extreme self-respect the first time you choose yourself without apology. That moment becomes your new identity. Rule number 7. Make your self-respect non-negotiable with daily discipline. The final rule is the foundation beneath all the others. Self-respect is not a speech you give yourself. It is a system you live by. If you only respect yourself when you feel strong, you do not have self-respect, you have a mood. Stoicism turns self-respect into law through daily discipline, because discipline is what remains when emotion fades. Most people fail here because they want self-respect to come from confidence. The Stoics knew better. Confidence rises and falls. Discipline is deliberate, and when your discipline is consistent, your self-respect becomes permanent. Here is the Stoic move. You prove your worth to yourself first, not to the world. You keep promises to yourself, especially the small ones. You wake up when you said you would. You train your body, not for vanity, but for command. You speak the truth, even when it costs you comfort. You stop indulging habits that make you feel weak the next day, because every time you break your word to yourself, your self-respect bleeds quietly, and every time you keep your word, it returns. Make this practical. Create 3 non-negotiables you do daily, no matter what. 1 for the body, 1 for the mind, 1 for the spirit. Body, movement, strength, a walk, anything that signals discipline. Mind, reading, journaling, learning, or silence without distraction, anything that signals focus. Spirit, gratitude, prayer, meditation, or reflection, anything that signals inner authority. Keep them small enough to be consistent and serious enough to matter. Then add this boundary law. Never chase what disrespects you. If someone ignores you, you do not double text. If someone insults you, you do not laugh it off. If someone violates your standard, you do not bargain with yourself. You enforce the rule the same way you would enforce a law in your home, calmly, immediately, without needing validation. Stoicism teaches that you cannot control how others behave, but you can control what you allow into your life. So your self-respect becomes a filter. It removes what drains you. It keeps what strengthens you. It refuses what shames you, and it protects what is sacred in you. If you have been lowering yourself for years, do not try to fix everything overnight. Just do one thing daily that your future self will respect. Small wins build inner authority. Inner authority builds standards. Standards build a life you do not need to escape from. Now listen closely, because this is where everything becomes real. You can hear these 7 Stoic rules and feel strong for a moment, then go right back to the same patterns that stole your dignity. Or you can decide today that self-respect is no longer optional. Not when you feel like it. Not when people treat you well. Not when life is easy. Self-respect becomes your standard in silence, in pressure, in loneliness, and in temptation. You don't build extreme self-respect by demanding it from others. You build it by refusing to abandon yourself. Every time you say what you mean, your spine straightens. Every time you walk away from disrespect, your soul gets louder. Every time you stop chasing approval, you return to your center. And every time you keep your word to yourself, you become someone you can trust. Here is what I want you to do right now. Take one rule from this video, the one that exposed you the most, and make it your law for the next 7 days. Not as motivation, as discipline. You will be tested. The old patterns will call you back. People will notice the change and try to pull you into the version of you they could control. Stay steady, quietly, firmly, because the moment you stop lowering yourself, your life begins to rise. And remember the Stoic truth. You cannot control how people treat you, but you can control what you tolerate. Your tolerance is your teaching. Your boundaries are your message. Your absence is your final sentence. If this message hit you, don't keep it private. Write this in the comments right now. My self-respect is non-negotiable, not to impress anyone, so your mind sees it, your spirit claims it, and your future self holds you accountable. And if you're ready to build this kind of inner authority every day, stay with this channel. Like this video so more silent fighters find it. Subscribe to Inside Stoic Thought, because here we don't chase validation, we build discipline, detachment, and unshakable strength. May you walk with calm power. May you stop begging for what you should command, and may your self-respect become the quiet force that shapes everything you touch.